session this. Oh, thank you so much, Ashley. We have a little disclaimer for our session this morning, but I'll have Stacy um, talk about that with you all. But yeah, if we want to, Stacy, if you want to take it off.
Right on. Thanks, Lynette. Good morning, everyone. First off, I am so grateful to my friend Lynette and to our hosts, to Ariel and Tiffany and Ashley, to NJAP, and to you all. I'm excited that you are all a part of this awesome initiative as part of the Youth Planning Committee. And I'm excited to be here this morning, if you can't tell by my energy level at 10 a.m. My name is Stacy. Who am I? I'm a therapist. I work with children, teens, young adults, and families. I live on Long Island, so I am repping New York. Yes, Ariel. I also have the privilege of currently serving as the Suicide Prevention Program Manager with the Society for the Prevention of Teen Suicide. But most importantly, I am someone who is really passionate about people experiencing hope and healing. Can y'all say that with me? Hope and healing. I know y'all are on mute. I can see y'all. Let's try that one more time. Hope and healing.
Open
Hope and
healing.
healing.
I love that. Right. So, while our conversation for the next couple of hours is going to be about mental health and suicide prevention, in my mind, right, our conversation for the next couple of hours is really going to be about hope and healing. And so, I think we'll start by just kind of talking about some housekeeping of how we want to share virtual space together. I am someone who is unfazed and not distracted by movement and self care, right? So if you want to eat, if you need to stretch, if you need the restroom, if you want your pet to be with you, whatever it is that's going to make you feel comfortable and that's going to help you feel most safe and engaged in our conversation, I want you to go ahead and do that. I also, if your environment doesn't present background noise, feel free to go ahead and take yourself off mute. Or if we're talking about something and a thought pops up in your mind, or we're talking about something and you get passionate, go ahead and jump in conversation, even if it's in the middle of a sentence. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your thoughts. You're part of this group because you're young people who have passion and who have ideas to put into the world. So I encourage you and I welcome you to put those ideas and those passion into this conversation over the next couple of hours, right? If you're someone who adds your voice and your ideas into the world most comfortably through chat, go ahead and do it that way too, right? I'm someone who tends to keep the chat up on the side of my screen throughout online conversations. All right. And lastly, what other housekeeping? I think we'll get to some other housekeeping as we keep going. So, y'all ready to ride? Let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to put trust and faith in you all to call me out when I'm acting like a grandma and my technology is not working, or like not what you're not seeing what I'm saying you're supposed to be seeing. Can I put trust and faith in y'all for that?
You definitely have us. You got
All
us.
right. Thank you. Feel supported already. All right, friends. So I love to start conversations with this question, right? So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself when you answer this question, whether it's with your voice or via chat. And I want you to answer if you could be absolutely anywhere in the world right now, realistic or not. While I know that you're thinking to yourself, Stacy, there's nowhere I'd rather be on Thursday at 10 a.m. than on Zoom with you. I know. But if there's somewhere else that you could be right now, anywhere in the world, where is it that you would want to be? You can use these pictures as inspiration or go ahead and think of that place that sounds really, really nice to you right now. I got my chat up.
I'll start it off and then someone can popcorn after me. Um, I'm Lynette. You all know. Pronoun she, they. Um, if I could be anywhere else right now, honestly, I want to be somewhere cold. I really hate the summer. I really hate the summer.
Right on.
And yeah, like I wish I was somewhere where I could just bundle up and wear a cool cardigan. I love sweater weather.
Mm-hmm. So this is not comfortable heat for you.
I do not do well in the heat. Goths do not do well in the heat.
I
Unfortunately,
see.
it's bad. It's
And is
bad.
there any particular cold place that sounds good to you right now?
Um, well, I don't. Doesn't matter. It does not
Okay.
matter, honestly, as long as it's cold.
So you value weather. The
Yes.
location is
Yep.
not important. I love it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Lynette.
I can go next. My name's Vaishnavi. My pronouns are she, her. And if I could be anywhere in the world right now, I'd probably want to go to a BTS concert. I'm
Did I
really
hear
excited.
BTS concert? All right, friends. Some good music. I love it. Nice to meet you, friend. Thank you.
I can go. My name is Monvi, and if I could be anywhere else right now, I would be on a beach.
Nice. Any beach at all? We talking like Jersey Shore or
Any beach. Any beach.
any beach? Lovely.
I could go. Sorry, my voice is like almost gone. Wait, let me put in chat instead.
Go ahead. No worries if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Pari. I appreciate you. I would like to be on a beach, maybe somewhere in Jamaica. That sounds so relaxing. I love it. Any other friends want to share their place? All right. Some friends, if it's Nana or Nana, is joining Pari in Jamaica. Some other folks. We got Disney. I love it. Beautiful. All right, friends. So I appreciate you sharing. I look forward to getting to hear and know you all more over the next couple of hours. What I'd like to do is we're going to take a nice deep breath together, right? We're going to breathe in through our nose. We're going to hold it for a couple of seconds. And we're going to breathe out through our mouths like we're blowing out a candle as slow as we can. And as we're blowing that breath out, I want everyone to go to that place that they're thinking of in their minds. Ready? On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. In, hold, and out. Go to that place. I love it. Some of you are in Disney, some of you are at the beach, right? So, throughout our couple of hours together, we are going to have a conversation that's going to touch on mental health disruptions, suicide prevention. And while in my mind, this conversation is about hope and healing, I'd be pretty naive to believe that it's a conversation that might not also elicit strong emotions, or in Stacy language, might not get you in your feels, right? Because we're first meeting each other for the first time, and some of you may be carrying into this room your own lived experience, your own stories. And sometimes when we're having this conversation, you might feel a little like, oh, that touched a nerve, right? I feel a little something. if that happens, it's okay. Nothing's wrong. I want you to move around a little, take a sip of water, breathe. If you need to, right? If those feelings are feeling a little overwhelming, I want you to directly message Ariel, Lynette, Tiffany, or Ashley and just say, hey, I'm feeling a little something. They can hop out into a breakout room with you. Just be one-on-one with someone, take a moment, talk it out if you need to. Whatever it is you choose to do to take care of yourself in that moment. And then I want you, if possible, to re-engage so you can hear the resources, so you can hear the hope, right? So right now and today, I'm sending love to anybody that's been impacted by mental health concerns. I'm sending love to anyone who has family, friends, neighbors, maybe even yourself. I'm sending love so that you are reminded that you are not alone. Everyone say never alone with me, right? Put in the chat, never alone. Um, Today is not about shame or blame or otherizing. Today is about all of us. Each person is important. I love it. And today is going to be about awareness, connection, and love, because I believe that transformation comes from love, hope, and accountability. So I see in the chat, y'all are writing never alone. That tells me that we're ready. So let's do this. All right. So mental health. What is mental health? Anyone want to jump in on what your thoughts on mental health are? All right, y'all. We're warming up. So when we think about mental health in general, we tend to talk about it from a place of needing assistance or treatment, right? There's like this negative connotation we ascribe to mental health when we say, oh, that person has mental health, or that person needs some mental health, or, ooh, we're talking about mental health today? Ooh, right? But actually, mental health is the good thing. Mental health is the thing we want. So on the screen, you can see the CDC definition, right? But I'm going to give you the Stacy definition. Mental health is a grounded sense of who you are. Mental health is when we realize our strengths and our abilities, when we can kind of weather the ups and downs in life, we can ride the wave of our emotions. Mental health is when we have a sense of purpose that's greater than ourselves. Mental health is when we're in safe and healthy connection to others. So, mental health is the state of being and knowing that we all strive to exist in. Now, our mental health, our mental well being may be intended and set up to be in place, but what we know is that a universal truth of being human, right, of being a human being, is hardship and challenge. Show me a human being that hasn't experienced hardship at some point in their life. Sometimes the effects of life can get our mental health kind of out of alignment. Does it mean there's something wrong with us? No, it just means that we're human. So mental health is the goal, but things can interfere with our mental equilibrium. These are the things that impact our sense of security, our understanding, or our mental clarity, right? Now, these, I call them disruptions or interruptions. They may look different for each of us, but if we're going to stay honest, right? Or in my language, if we're going to keep it 100, right? Anyone going to keep it 100 today? Yes. All right. We're going to keep it 100 today. You don't have to raise your hand, but if you look at this list, there's been a point in, I love it, there's been a point in everybody's life where we may have struggled feeling as emotionally secure as you'd like to, because you may have struggled with something on this list. Can we agree with that? Yes. So this is not an exhaustive list, right? In the chat, I want you to write if there are mental health disruptions or interruptions that you can think of that may not be on this list, right? I'm going to talk a little bit further on a couple of these. And if you have thoughts on some of them, I want to hear about them too. Mental health disorders. What is a mental health disorder? It's a diagnosable disorder that can, right? I'm going to emphasize that word, that can cause psychological or behavioral disturbance to kind of like a varying degree that can affect our mood, our behavior, and our relationships. And it can look different for each of us, right? And so if we think about our mental health the way we think about our physical health, if we can take medication to manage our diabetes, to manage our blood sugar level, our insulin level, some folks may take medication to manage their chemicals in their brain, their depression levels, right? So if folks have a mental health disorder, if there's an imbalance chemically, right, that diagnosable disorder that causes a varying degree of disturbance, then it disrupts that sense of grounded rootedness, that sense of their ability to weather that storm that all humans experience. Hit it a thumbs up if y'all are tracking with me. I see it. Sleep deprivation. Y'all ever gone a couple days without sleep? Maybe you had maybe it was Regents time or final season or AP exams, right? Or maybe there was something worrying you, something that was keeping you up at night. By day like 2 or 3, are you clear? Right? Are you making your best decisions by day 5, no sleep? I'm not, right? It's a huge one. So these disruptions, such as sleep deprivation, they can cloud or get in the way of our mental clarity, our ability to think clearly and feel our best. Medical concerns, things happening to our body, if we're struggling or if our loved one is struggling, right? It impacts how we feel and what we think. Financial concerns, some of us may relate at our age, right? Or within our family dynamics. This can have us worrying or thinking, what can we do? What should we do? Stressful life events. This can include new stress too. Anyone heard of that term, new stress? This is like thinking about things that might be considered good, right? Like speaking in front of a group of youth leaders. It's a good thing. Doesn't mean it's not stressful, right? Doesn't mean your body still doesn't have you kind of like activated. Yeah. Or graduating. I know we said some of our seniors are off at their graduation ceremonies today. But even those things that are considered positive events happening in our lives can still kind of activate our body, rev us up, right? And still have our mind kind of going like, ugh, am I alone in that? No. Y'all are youth leaders. Yes. So family and friend conflict. Ooh, I'm gonna just say, can family and friend conflict disrupt or interrupt our mental and emotional well-being? Y'all are teens. I don't think I gotta say much more than that, right? Y'all ever had a conflict with a friend? Those friend breakups are painful, no? So we know how that can impact our thoughts and our emotions. Loss. I'm gonna stop here for a moment because I think that when we talk about and think about loss, oftentimes we think about physical loss, right? Losing a loved one, and we tend to kind of stop there. And losing a loved one, physical loss, that's hard, right? People that's a painful experience. We also know that people can grieve all kinds of things, right? So I want us to think about, we don't want to minimize the kind of loss that people are experiencing, even if we may not understand it or we may not have experienced it. I know folks, and you may know folks that have grieved the loss of pets, the loss of jobs, or opportunities, right? They may have grieved the loss of or the ending of relationships, the loss of ideas or dreams, right? Once you have in your mind what the outcome is going to be for something and that changes, how that can activate such painful emotions, or how that can require such a change and shift in your thinking. And lastly, we have trauma. And so I think for our generations, right, both mine and yours, we've gotten to this place where we can tend to call a lot of discomfort trauma. And so what I want us to know about trauma is that there can be a lot of different experiences that can be considered trauma or that can activate trauma. But here's what I want you to know about trauma. Trauma can create new neural pathways. What do I mean by that? It can kind of open up new lines and new experiences within your brain and within your body. So, how many of us have heard of your body's response of fight, flight, or freeze? Y'all heard of that before? Yeah, right? So, our bodies have natural ways of reacting to threat. So, if a dinosaur walked through your bedroom door right now, right? The dinosaur came walking through my office door right now. How many of my friends in this room know that they are about running out that door? They're halfway down the block. Dino's not biting them today. No, sir. Where are my runners? Okay. Lynette's running. Ashley's running. Monvy's running. Yep. All right. Y'all are already down the block. No dinos catching you today. How many of my friends are, as much as they may love to run down, their body is freezing up? Like their body's not letting them go anywhere. Where are my freezers? Paige, Parv, Pari. Yeah. No shame, no shade today, right, friends? This is our body's natural response to threat. I know that at one point I thought I was a runner. I thought like no way, I'm out of here, until I found myself in a situation and I was like, I can't move. Like my body won't let me do anything, right? And I found out, oh, I'm actually a freezer. Now, how many of my friends are like, oh, this dino's gonna catch these hands. This dino's the one going down. This dino better be scared of me now. Where are my fighters? Isaac's fighting a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Ariel's taken down a dino today. Any other fighters in the room? Now there's another trauma response called fawn, right? And fawn is when our response to trauma is, in order to survive, we kind of will like we will kind of like people please in order to survive, right? So how many of my friends are like gonna talk the dino down, try to calm T-Rex, let him know that like, hey, maybe get him a cup of tea, tell him there's nothing to be so angry about. My couch is really comfy, sir. Like, please, there's no need for conflict today. Yeah. Lynette's like, absolutely. I'll brew him some tea. There's no worries. I'll have a pet T-Rex. Any other fawners? Anyone making friends with our T-Rex? No. No. All right. So what do we want to know about trauma? We want to know that it can absolutely come in and throw our mental health off of its equilibrium, right? That even after the traumatic event may have passed, that our body may be stuck in this cycle of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, even if that threat is not there anymore, right? And so you may have a friend, or you may have a parent, or there might be someone in your life who you're like, why are they reacting to me this way? All I said was like, it's no big deal, or all I said was, can you do this for me? And they're getting all activated, right? That's what trauma can do. It can throw their body into that cycle of reacting to threats that may not be there. Can I get a thumbs up if y'all are tracking with me? All right. So true. Yeah. Um, Now, friends, these disruptions are important, right? This is not an exhaustive list. And one thing that might impact someone else might not be a huge thing in our lives. And one thing that might impact us might not impact someone else. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it impacts us, right? It affects us and it affects the way we see things. Now, family, we've all been affected by these disruptions. We may not all speak about them or seek help for them, and that can be due to stigma. How many of us have heard the word stigma before? Yeah, we're familiar, right? Stigma is an attitude towards a topic that leads people to feel a sense of shame or fear about speaking about it openly, right? I'm going to say that one again. Stigma is this attitude towards any topic that makes people feel shame or fear about speaking about it openly. Stigma tells us don't talk about it. Stigma tells us don't say how you feel. There can't be anything wrong with me. If someone finds out what I'm feeling, they're going to judge me. They're going to think less of me. So we otherize it. They deal with this, not me. Stigma is when someone says, hey, you all right? Stigma says, I'm fine, even though maybe we're not doing so hot, right? Maybe we're not doing so okay. That attitude towards a topic, it can exist in family, it can exist in friend groups, it can exist in community, or it can exist in society, right? When stigma, I like to say, especially in my therapy room, when my girl stigma's in the room, can be real hard to show up fully, right? So part of our goal, part of our job today is going to be to chip away at our girl stigma so that we can create some space to keep it 100, to be real with one another, and to have conversation without shame, without fear. And we do that by creating safe, courageous, and loving spaces that give people permission to be real with one another. Can we practice that today, y'all? Can we practice loving one another and not judging one another so we can be real? I had a feeling this was the group for it. So in order to practice this together, I want to make sure that we're on the same page about what a safe space means so that we can go ahead and practice it. So what I'm going to ask us to do, these are some agreements that may just get everyone aligned on the same page of what we're going to ask of each other. So you might be able to let some walls down and either thumbs up in the chat or thumbs up on your screen if you feel like this is an agreement that you feel you can make, right? So in this space today until about 12 o'clock, do you feel that you can offer yourself and others some love? Do you feel that you can take some accountability, right? Be responsible for your words and your actions? Do you feel that you can uphold confidentiality of stories shared? What does that mean? That you can take the lessons of the day out of this room and share it, but people's personal stories, their personal information, that stays only within this space. Love it. Can we be curious about what we may not know, right? Because I don't know everything. We don't know everything, right? And also share what we do know with one another, because I know that there is wisdom in this room. I'm not the only one who has something to share with you all. You've got something to share with myself and one another too. So thumbs up if you agree to be curious and also share your own wisdom. And lastly, to the same point, to share and receive gifts, to be open to giving and receiving from this space. All right, it looks like we're all in, friends. So we're going to go ahead and practice what it looks like without stigma is authenticity, right? Without stigma is being fully ourselves. Now, this is something that we may not always do in every space, and you know what? That's okay, because there are certain spaces where certain parts of us shine. But what I want us to think about is on a day to day basis, what parts of us, when I say parts, I mean what emotions, I mean what identities, right? When I say identities, I mean race, gender, sexual orientation, relationship status, sibling status, both social and personal identities. I mean, what passions and interests, all of who you are, what parts of you do you show to others are above the surface? And what parts of you might sit below the surface that other people may not know about you or that you may not share out with others? So I'm going to give us about 3 minutes. If you happen to have a piece of paper available to you, I'd ask you to do this on a piece of paper. If you don't have paper, that's totally okay. You can take your phone and, like, on the notes app, you can kind of like make a list of above the surface, below the surface. So I'm gonna share some music, put a timer on for 3 minutes. And if you have a question about what it is that you're gonna be doing during that time, go ahead and write your question in the chat. All right, friends. So I'm going to gently ask you to rejoin, even if it's something that you may have more to add to. Definitely something that you can continue adding to in time. And I'm going to ask, can I get two folks to can I get two folks to offer maybe one word to describe what it was like to work on this activity? I'm feeling quiet today. All right, maybe we'll warm up a little more one-on-one. So what we know, oh, thank you, friends. I'm sorry, I hadn't opened my chat yet. So we said enlightening and eye-opening. That's great. So it sounds like just taking a moment to put ourselves down on paper can really show us something about ourselves. And so as we show up authentically in safe spaces, what we know about continuing to create open spaces and support one another is that we want to share ourselves with others, right? We want to form genuine connections. As we move more and more into talking about suicide prevention, we'll be talking about how important and life-saving connection can be. One of the most crucial and special skills we can have in forming connection is actively listening to each other, right? When I say actively listening, what I'm talking about is listening with the goal of just understanding better. Listening not to respond, listening not to say something supportive or to ask a meaningful question or to relate. Listening just with the ability to better understand what that person is sharing or who that person is. And so what we'll do next is practice what it means and what it feels like to actively listen to one another. So here's what it's going to look like. I'm going to place you into breakout rooms of two. If it works out nicely, we might have a group of three. And you are going to identify yourselves as a person A and a person B. Person A is going to take 60 seconds, right? So you're going to look at the clock. I'll also help you by sending out like a 60-second reminder. And person A is going to talk for the full 60 seconds and share something about themselves that they wrote down on their iceberg, right? If you are done before the 60 seconds, you're going to sit in some silence. Ooh, how many of us love sitting in silence? You know, I'm a therapist, so I'm a little more okay with it. Some of my NJAAP friends might be a little more okay with it, but I remember being a teenager and silence was like the devil. So you can talk for the full 60 seconds. If you don't feel it, that's all right. Sit in some silence. After the 60 seconds is up, person B, I'm sorry, going back, during those 60 seconds, person B is going to actively listen. What does that mean? You're going to be listening and you're not going to ask any questions. If a thought pops up in your mind, that's okay. I'm going to ask you to quietly redirect it down, right? After the 60 seconds, person B is going to get 30 seconds to reflect back what you heard that person say. So that might sound something like, what I heard you say was that this part of you is something that you share because of this. Or what I heard you say is that you don't talk about this with people in your life because of this, right? Or you could use those 30 seconds to ask clarifying questions. I heard you say this. I'm not sure if I understood this part. Y'all tracking with me? And lastly, person A gets 30 more seconds afterwards to either validate or further explain. So that means they say, yeah, you got it right. Or actually, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this piece. I want you to understand this just a little bit better, right? After we do that process, A, B, A, you're going to switch positions so that person B now gets a chance to share something from their iceberg. Person A is now the listener, and you're going to go through the process again. Can I get a thumbs up if you are clear on the exercise? I love it. Y'all are doing wonderfully. All right, so you're gonna give Granny Stacy a chance to figure out putting y'all in your breakout rooms. Okay. How many folks, can I ask Lynette or Ariel for support? How many folks do we have in the space?
Right now we have 14, I believe. Wait, let me double check. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so that should be a clean 7 rooms. Do you all mind participating in the exercise so I
Yeah,
don't
oh
have
my
to worry
gosh, of
about?
course.
Thank you. 7 rooms. Okay. All right, friends. I'll see you back in a little bit.
All right, awesome. Yeah, the breakout rooms didn't come up just yet. I can also do it if
Yeah,
you
it looks
want,
like we have
Stacy. Do we
1,
have more?
2, 3, 4. Yeah, we've got more folks than that. There are 4 rooms with 3 people. So let me just go back
I think
and
we have
do.
19 altogether, including.
Yep. Okay. 9 rooms is 2 participants per room. Okay. We
Perfect.
should be all good now. Right. We are, and we did our active listening. Active listening is one of the skills that as young people especially we're able to use and offer to one another as a way to support our peers, our friends, our loved ones who may be struggling with mental health challenges or with thoughts of suicide. Now, you're going to hear me, and you've heard me say suicide clearly and directly, right? I say the word upfront because, my friends, the word suicide is not a bad word, right? It's not a word to feel shame over. It might be a word that carries fear or discomfort, and that's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. What I don't want you to do is allow that discomfort to stop you from having conversation. We can sit in some discomfort. Y'all ever felt uncomfortable before? Y'all ever gone to school with a headache? Y'all ever gone to school with a stomach ache before? Right? Y'all ever been on the line for a roller coaster that's like freaking feet tall, like so scary? You're uncomfortable. It's okay to be. But we don't let that discomfort stop us because we know that being uncomfortable paired with hope, paired with resources, that's what saves lives. So I say the word openly and freely and directly because the word talking about suicide, right? Saying the word, asking one another if we're thinking about suicide, we know that it will not plant the idea in someone's mind. It's okay to talk about suicide, right? The word is not a magic wand. What do I mean by that? If someone is struggling with intense emotional pain, if someone is struggling with the thought of suicide or experiencing suicidal ideation, what I mean by that, suicidal ideation is this range or this continuum of um, anywhere from like a passing thought of not being alive all the way to a fully worked out plan of ending their lives. That's what I mean when I say suicidal ideation. If someone is struggling with suicidal ideation and we ask them about it, what we do is we act as a bridge, because experiencing suicidal ideation can be a very isolating, oftentimes very scary experience that a lot of people can have a hard time reaching out and telling someone else about. So, what we're doing is we're practicing gaining the skills, the confidence, and the language to be a bridge. Can you all say that with me or put it in the chat? Be a bridge. We're going to be a bridge to that person so that they're no longer alone. They're no longer experiencing this pain or this struggle in isolation. By asking the question, asking them if they're having thoughts of suicide, we give them space to share. We offer them an opportunity to take some of that pain and some of that weight and share it with us so that it's a little easier for them to hold, right? But I said that that word's not a magic wand, meaning that if we ask someone if they're having thoughts of suicide and they're not in that level of intense emotionality and they're not contemplating ending their life, I promise you that asking that question, saying the word, is not going to move them into a place of struggle where they now see suicide as an option. Right? So I want to start there by letting you all know that this is an okay conversation to have, and we're going to talk about it directly and clearly. And I'm going to remind you that if the word or if the conversation gets you in your feels, right? Because we know it can be uncomfortable. We know that we can bring our own stories that can bring emotions with it, that you're not alone and that we're all here to support you, right? So I'm going to offer you some language, right? When we talk about having conversation, both in this room, and my understanding is that you've all joined this youth planning committee so that you yourselves can be young people, young, resilient, courageous people who go out into your communities to raise conversation too. So thank you for being those people. I want to offer you some language to do that with, right? When you hear me talk about suicide, I'm not going to tell you what language to use in your conversations. I don't really believe that that's my role to tell people how to speak. But I'm going to tell you what language I choose to use, and I'm going to offer you some food for thought so you can choose language that feels good to you, that's aligned with your values, right? I start with language because I believe that words have power. I believe that the words that we choose can influence other people's wellness. And so I'm going to ask you all to first think about what, if you've had conversations about suicide or if you've heard conversations about suicide, what is the language that you either use or you hear? You can write it in the chat if you feel comfortable enough to do so. Do you use or hear the term committed suicide? You would put number 1 in the chat. 2, successful or unsuccessful suicide. 3, completed suicide. 4, died by suicide. Right? So I want you to first take a moment and reflect on what language is first being used in your life. And then I'll offer you some food for thought, right? So you'll hear me use the term number 4, died by suicide. Here's why. Let me scroll down. I use this term because I believe that breaking down stigma, right, so that we don't feel a sense of shame when we have the conversation. One way in which we can do that is when we talk about our mental health in similar language that we talk about our physical health. Because think about it. When do folks tend to talk about their physical health pretty openly? I don't know about you all, but like people tend to tell me a lot about their physical health. Like people will let me know when they've got a stomach ache. People will let me know, when they go to the doctor. People let me know about like their toileting issues. People talk about their physical health pretty openly. I appreciate seeing that folks are hearing number 1 used, but opting towards number 4. But so when we think about aligning mental health and physical health language, it helps to bring down stigma, because when we lose a life to a medical concern, we don't say that we lost that life, that that person committed said medical concern, right? We say that that person died by the medical concern, or we lost them to the medical concern, the medical condition. And so if we make the language the same, then people might be able to speak more openly about thoughts of suicide or loss of a loved one to suicide. The second reason is that I know that certain words carry other meanings and other ideas with them, right? So I'm going to ask you all to use the chat, right? So if you want to take a moment, when you see or hear the word committed alone, right? Separate from this idea of conversation around suicide, the word committed, what ideas or words come to mind when you hear the word committed? Give y'all a moment. Commit to college, Mondi, for sure. Tell me more. What other thoughts or ideas or words come to mind when you hear the word committed? Commit to a sport, commit to a relationship, committing a crime, a big decision. I appreciate you all, right? Committing a crime is oftentimes one of the most common ones that come up, no matter who I'm talking to, where I'm speaking to folks. Committing a crime tends to come up a lot. And so when we think about committing a crime, that's doing something bad, right? When we think about any of these other ones, college, sport, relationship, determination, right? We think about putting our mind to something and achieving and accomplishing. And so I think to myself when I'm choosing my language, do I want any of those other ideas to be in the room when I'm sitting across from someone who's being vulnerable and opening up about their emotional pain? Right? Do I want the idea of someone doing something bad and committing a crime? Do I want the idea of accomplishment and putting my mind to something in the room with me when someone's being vulnerable and opening up about their pain? Right? And so that's some food for thought of why I tend to move from committed towards died by suicide. And when it comes to number 2 and number 3, I personally, I have to do like mental gymnastics to align that kind of language. When we talk about successful and completed, those are words that a lot of folks feel like it's a positive feeling that comes up, like we're checking off, we've done something, we've accomplished, successful. And when I use those words in relationship with the idea of a lost life, that doesn't sit right with me, right? Personally, this is Stacy talking. And so I encourage you all, Erin, Isaac, Ashley, Paige, to think to yourself, what language feels aligned with my values? What language do I think is going to help me break down stigma and create safe spaces for folks to open up about their pain? Right? Y'all tracking with me? All right. So as we keep moving down, I wanted to take a moment for us to really understand what suicide, what the experience of suicidality means. It's a topic because of stigma that can often be misunderstood, often because of fear. We might keep it kind of like at an arm's length distance. It can be scary, can be uncomfortable to think about losing someone, right? And so we keep it at an arm's length distance so that we don't have to think about the idea that it could affect us or it could affect someone close to us. But I'm going to ask you, because you're all courageous, resilient young people, and because you're supported and safe in this space, to let it a little bit closer so we can understand that suicide, the experience of suicidal thinking, is not so much about the desire to end your biological existence, not so much about the desire to die. It's more so about someone being in intense emotional pain and struggling to feel as though they can continue living with that pain, right? Struggling to feel as though they either have the support, the coping mechanisms, the problem solving skills, or the hope to continue living with the emotional pain that they're experiencing. Now that's heavy, right? That's a heavy thing to sit with. So I'm going to ask you all to take a deep breath with me. We're going to do 2. And I know I'm going to Greece in my mind. That was my place this morning. I didn't share with y'all. I want you to go to Disney. I want you to go to the beach for a moment because we're talking about real pain here. Ready? Take a breath in and out. I could use one more. In and out. Hope and healing, friends, right? I know we're talking about some heavy pain, but this is about hope and healing because while suicide is real and suicide impacts many of us, suicide is the most preventable means of death, right? Suicide is preventable. It's preventable because 2/3 of folks who experience suicidality communicate their pain before attempting to end their life. And we can learn what the warning signs look like. We can learn what it looks like when folks communicate their pain because it's not always verbal, right? It's not always folks saying, I'm in pain. Sometimes they're showing it, sometimes they're posting it. But we can learn what to look out for. We can learn what contributes to people feeling safe and supported so that we can show up in the world, right? It's not on your shoulders. It's not your responsibility to keep people safe and alive, but you can play a part in a community that can keep people safe and alive, right? If that's resonating with y'all, I want you to write in the chat, safe and alive. And so we're going to talk about what are the warning signs? What might it look like when someone is struggling with suicidal thoughts that let us know, right? I think about warning signs as like a flashing red light. That flashing red light tells me to stop and like pause what I'm doing and give my attention to this person because there are signs that they might be in the kind of emotional pain that it could be possible that they're thinking about suicide. And I want to offer my connection. That's what I'm offering, right? There are no magic words that you might say that will all of a sudden take away their pain. That's not your role. That's not what we're asking you to do. But your connection, that could make a big difference for that person. Y'all tracking with me? So at SPTS, we categorize warning signs into an acronym called FACTS. This is for to help us remember what the warning signs are so that in those moments, we remember what to look out for, right? So we're going to go through the acronym FACTS. F stands for feelings. These are what does it feel like? What are the emotions that go into that idea of intense emotional pain? There are so many different feelings, right? Each person might experience something different. And there tend to be themes and patterns of certain feelings that, in research especially, show up when folks get to the point of seeing suicide as an option, right? I did want to mention that suicide is complex, right? I want you all to repeat to yourselves in your minds, complex. What does that mean? That there's never one reason that someone may consider or attempt suicide, right? That there are layers, that there are layers of experiences or challenges or emotions that bring someone to a point of seeing suicide as an option or feeling a level of hopelessness that they feel or that they're thinking about suicide, right? From the outside, think about that iceberg. From the outside, we may only see the tip, we may only see the loss or the breakup or the certain, experience, but there's always more under the surface. And so some of the feelings that I'll highlight for us are hopelessness and helplessness. I highlight those two because as young people, we might be able to hear that in our peers, right? Hopelessness could sound like our friend, our teammate, our peer saying something like, I don't think this is ever going to get better, right? Whatever it is that's going on in their life, whatever it is that they're feeling, I genuinely don't think this is ever going to change. I don't think it's ever going to get better. When it's paired with helplessness, it could sound like, I don't think this is ever going to get better. And I don't think there's anything that anyone can do to change that or to help me with that, right? When we hear those two, hopelessness and helplessness together, those make our antennas go up of like, whoa, that's a warning sign for suicide. Let me ask more questions. Let me ask my friend if they're thinking about suicide because I might want to make sure that that person is connected to some support. That's a heavy feeling. That's a heavy feeling to deal with alone, right? Another feeling that's a warning sign is a feeling of burdensomeness. This is one that we see more and more young people struggling with. That burdensomeness, what it might sound like for a peer, is that person that that's kind of always like overly apologetic for themselves. That person, if you've ever experienced them, that's always saying sorry for like any little thing they do. They kind of see themselves as like an inconvenience, or feel as though their struggles are a problem for others. Now, I'll preface all of this with saying, does this mean that every single person that may show any of these signs are suicidal? No, it doesn't mean that everyone is. But if you see it, is there any harm in asking if they are? No, because you're not going to plant the idea in their head, right? In my mind, it's always going to be a better course of action to ask the question than to not ask the question. I'd rather have possibly an awkward moment where I show someone that like I care about you enough, you matter to me enough for me to ask you about suicide, which is like something that we maybe don't always do, than for me to say I wasn't sure if I should have asked and I didn't, and my friend wasn't well, and my friend may have done something to harm themselves, right? The last feeling I'll highlight here is a feeling of exhaustion, right? Now, I know that, like, y'all, we're tired. You're teenagers. You're in high school. Y'all do a lot. You probably do more than we do as adults sometimes. Like, I don't know who designed high school and who thought that, like, all those activities and all those classes all at once in your life was a good idea on, like, 4 hours of sleep because school starts really, really early in the morning. I don't know. I feel for y'all. I send love to you, right? So it's normal to be tired. But when your peer might be tired all of the time, right? Always expressing tiredness. I might ask, are we talking about the kind of tired where like you need a nap? Or are we talking about the kind of tired where like your soul is tired? You're emotionally exhausted, right? I might ask that kind of question. Our A stands for actions, right? So this is, what is my peer doing? How are they acting? Something to note here is substance use, right? So some substance use in adolescence for some people might be viewed as like typical adolescent experimentation or rebellion. Whether it's typical behavior or not, what we want to know about substance use, one of the most risky substance uses for a suicidal mind is alcohol, right? It's risky because alcohol brings your inhibitions down and your impulsivity up. And for someone who's contemplating suicide, we want as much time and space between the thought and the action as possible. Alcohol or any substance really is going to make that time and space a lot shorter. And so if you see a peer who is using substances, Number one could be using them to cope with emotional pain. Number two could increase their risk for suicide, right? Does that make sense to us? Other warning signs under actions could be aggression, getting into fights, could be, I call it risky behavior, right? So any way in which like they might be putting their physical body in harm without much care for what might happen to them, right? That should make my antennas go up like, hey, you good? You could really hurt yourself. This could end your life. You don't seem too worried about that. I want to check in on you. You okay? I'm concerned about that, right? Stands for changes. So this person that I know, are they showing up differently than how you typically know them to, right? Are they kind of withdrawn? Are they not interested or passionate about the things that they're typically interested or passionate about? If you've got a friend that's like you've always known them to be like a Star Wars buff, a Star Wars nerd, and the new Star Wars movie is coming out or the new Star Wars Lego set kit is out and they're not so interested, they're not running to get it, right? Like if they're a gamer and the Switch 2 just dropped and they were not on that line, they didn't pre-order it, I might ask myself, what's going on with my friend? I know them to be this way and they're not showing up that way anymore, right? Also looking out for changes in the other direction. If I know my friend to be someone who's a little more withdrawn or someone who's a little more low energy and all of a sudden they're super up, that's something to take note of also. T stands for talks and threats. So themes of death or dying, even if it's a joking manner, if over and over my friend is writing KMS or my peer is making jokes or making comments about disappearing, not waking up, no one caring if they weren't around, right? Those are warning signs for suicide. Also, looking at folks' social media posts. I know y'all will put a lot on social media that you might not say face to face. I will too, right? So when you see something on social media that's concerning, let's check in on one another. And lastly, our S stands for situations. So these are those activating events. Those are those mental health disruptions and interruptions that might raise the intensity of our emotions. So, my friends, these warning signs are what we might look out for, right? It's really about paying attention to one another, right? It's being connected to one another. It's about checking in on each other, being willing to step out and say, like, hey, I see this in you. Which brings us to what do we do? What does it look like when we have a concern? Your role as a young person, your role as a peer is so, so important because no matter how many therapists, no matter how great our parents are, what we know and what hasn't changed over a really long period of time is that young people tend to let one another know what's going on with them before they let an adult know, right? You all know what's going on with each other. You see it. And so your role is so critical. And I want you to know that it is limited, that it is not your responsibility alone to keep your peers alive. Nobody can do that. I'm a therapist. I don't take that responsibility on myself, right? I let you know it's limited because you have the ability to know the warning signs, to be that person that's willing to ask the question, to check in on your peers. And I want you to know that suicide is not a secret to be kept, right? I'd rather have a friend that may be angry with me for a period of time because I brought someone in on what's going on than a friend who may have ended their life, right? Because suicide is not a secret to be kept. But when we identify adults who we trust, right? I call them trusted adults. We don't have to be alone in these situations where we have friends who struggle. So your role is to be aware of the warning signs, to check in, to create these spaces where we're keeping it 100 with one another, right? To actively listen to each other, create spaces where we can share our truths, to ask the question. Now, when I say ask the question, friends, we got to find what that sounds like for us, right? Are we saying, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about ending your life? Have you had thoughts of suicide? And whatever that language is, it might be difficult to get out. I'll tell y'all, I've been asked about my own suicidality for over 10 years. I've been asking other people about their suicidality for over 4 years. And I still get uncomfortable sometimes, right? It still scares me a bit. So I practice. I practice in the car. I practice in the shower. I practice with the people in my own life. I practice so that I get used to hearing it in my own voice, so that when I sit with someone else and I have to ask them about it, I don't scare myself and I don't scare them. I don't scare them so that they feel like, let me just tell Stacy no so that like it doesn't overwhelm her, right? I encourage you to practice, say it out loud, find your voice, find what feels familiar to you and how you might be able to ask the question, right? And then our job as young people is to be aware of our resources and build our own relationships with trusted adults so that we have someone to go to help us navigate the situation and connect our peers to the life-saving resources that they need. Lastly, our role is to have support network ourselves and to be taking care of ourselves, right? We can't give to others what we don't have to give, right? And the more we take care of ourselves, the more we may be viewed as someone to confide in. And so, what do I do and what do I say? These are questions that are very reasonable to have. What do I say? Ask the question. You say, tell me more if you're ever not sure what to say. This is my therapist secret, right? Because I'll tell y'all, sometimes even as a therapist, I don't know what to say all the time, right? And I don't always have to know what to say. Most of the time, it's not about it's not about saying the right thing that makes someone not be in pain or feel supported. Most of the time, folks just need someone who's willing to sit with them in it and not try and change things or solve things or make, like, just be with someone, right? I want someone to be with me and not make me feel like I need to make myself smaller or my pain smaller around them. And so if you're ever with someone and you don't know what to say, those 3 words, tell me more, those are great words to say. Give someone permission to keep being themselves, keep opening up, right? I encourage you to say thank you. It's hard, y'all. It's hard to trust someone with your most vulnerable feelings. So I often say, like, thank you so much for trusting me with this, for allowing me to get close enough to you in this moment, right? And in whatever it sounds like, let them know they're not alone. And what do? You actively listen, you offer support, understand your limits, and tell a trusted adult, right? We're going to talk more about who that trusted adult can be. But I realize that I've been yapping. So we're going to go ahead and practice this, right? I'm going to give you all permission to feel uncomfortable. I'm going to give you all permission to ask for help from any of the adults in this space if you need it. But here's what it's going to look like. I am going to place you into breakout rooms, right? And I'm going to send you a blurb of a teenager and kind of what's going on in that teenager's life, right? So you're going to read that blurb and it's going to say, like, you are a 16-year-old male. This is what's going on in your life. You're going to read it. And then when you're talking to your partner, you are going to talk as if you're that teenager, right? So you're going to say, I am a 16-year-old male. I feel this. This is going on in my family. And as the other partner, you're going to practice what you would do if you were the one listening, right? Following those steps. I'll send out what you say and what you do. Y'all tracking with me? Thumbs up if we got it. Cool beans? All right, I just aged myself so bad. If we have time, we might switch positions. Ouch. All right, friends. So I'm going to place you in your breakout rooms and I'm going to send you out your blurbs. And the adults are going to be hopping room to room just to offer you support throughout this. So. Right. And so I encourage you, number one, to give yourself grace, right? That the more we practice and the more we explore ourselves, the more familiar we become in situations like these. Now, if you found it to be a little challenging, or if you weren't quite sure what to say or how you might encourage or offer someone to go from sharing with you to connecting with another support person, because that's a challenging step, I'll offer you this thought, right? That when we stay grounded and rooted in the belief that every single person has value, when we let people know that you, like, you know what, you matter to me. Like, I mean that you matter to me. Like, you sharing with me, I want you to be okay. And I know that what you shared with me is so important, that it's important to me that you're alive, that you have value in this world, you have value in my life, right? And because of that, I really want to make sure that you have the support you need. Now, I know Miss Lynette, and Miss Lynette is so supportive to me, right? Like, she's a really good listener. She's cool. She's got candy in her office. Like, if you want, we can go down to Miss Lynette's office together and we can talk to her about it. Or if there's someone that you would rather talk to about it, but I really think, or I really know that we need to let someone else know about this, right? When we stay rooted in letting people know that they matter to us, that they have value in this world, it can make that step just a little bit easier, right? When we're talking about getting trusted adults involved. Now, I'm going to move really quickly here. Trusted adults can be absolutely any adult that you can think of, any adult in your life, right? It doesn't have to be a parent, doesn't have to be a counselor, doesn't have to be a teacher, it can be any adult who has those qualities that make them feel like people that you can turn to. The qualities that most young people tell us they look for are adults who are non-judgmental, who will actively listen. Usually, our young people tell us that they don't want the adults to jump to fixing things or to tell them it'll be, it'll get better or be grateful. They usually look for the adults that allow conversations, like the things that usually adults say, like, don't talk about that, that these are the adults that welcome those conversations. But also those adults that will actually take action, that when you go to them, they will do something, they will get help, right? And this is a really interesting and important one. The adults that follow up with you, right? That say, like, hey, yesterday, I know it was a really hard moment. I know that it was really difficult for us to go to the counselor. I wanted to know, like, how did everything go? How are you doing today? Right? I know that follow up can be so important, can make us feel so important and valued. So, whoever the trusted adult is to you, and I recommend having, if we're so valued and lucky enough to have trusted adult in different parts of our life, right? Think to yourself, who's the trusted adult I would go to if I were at home? Who's the trusted adult I would go to if it were the middle of the school day? Who's the trusted adult I would go to if I were out on the soccer field or if my parents were out of town, right? You can have multiple of them. I think of it as like the dream team. I do like what's it called? Like draft. I do fantasy league drafts of them, or my what's it called? my lineup, right? It's okay to have multiple trusted adults. And if at any point for yourself or for someone in your life or for a peer, you're really, really struggling to identify a trusted adult in your life, I want you to know that there is still always someone that you can turn to. You are never alone. You can always have someone to be there in that moment of difficulty, because there are crisis resources, there are hotlines and helplines that you can reach out to. And there are so many different ones. So if you ever try one and the experience is not what you wanted it to be, try another one, friends, right? So 988 is the national hotline. There are also New Jersey based ones. There are also ones that you can text or online chat compared to call. And there are ones that are specific to your social identities, which means that when you reach out, the person at the other end of the line either shares your identity or is trained in understanding the lived experience of your identities, right? So whether you have a Muslim identity, a Black identity, if you're deaf, if you're trans, if you're part of the LGBTQ plus community. And lastly, although I wish I had more time to spend with you all, there are these things called protective factors, right? The protective factors are the parts of our lives that decrease our risk, right? So the work really, friends, is about helping us live a life that feels full of purpose and meaning, right? So it's about helping people move away from the idea that dying is an option, right? So that it's not about never having the idea cross your mind. It's okay if it does, but it's about when the storms of life hit, we can bounce back safely. We can bounce back because sometimes we bounce back and we're angry or we're disconnected or we're kind of at war with ourselves and our mind. We want to bounce back with resilience, or we want to build up the things that give our life joy and meaning and purpose so that when things get rough, there's as much space between the idea of suicide as possible. There's so many different things, and it's personal and it's individual what protective factors are most meaningful to us. Connection is one of the safest, healthiest, hugest protections for us, whether it's family or family of origin or chosen, a team or a community. It's about checking in and letting people know, like, when you're not here, you're missed, you're important here. I think of you, you matter to me, right? Treatment. Treatment can mean a lot of different things, right? Whether it's talk therapy, art therapy, a Bible study group that's focused on strength, right? There can be so many different things, but having access to treatment can be protective. Creating this narrative that seeking help is not a weakness, but seeking help is actually like a really strong, really bold thing to do and a really normal thing to do. What you're all doing being a part of this group is a protective factor, right? Civic engagement, getting involved in things that are based on your values, right? And using your voice because your voice has power. Planning for how to make it through moments where you don't feel safe. Limiting access to things that you could use to hurt yourself. Having a sense of faith and spirituality, practicing coping skills, practicing cultural practices and traditions, having access to essentials like food, clothing, safe housing. These are all things that help you view your life as having value and meaning, right? So this is an activity that I'm going to share with the adults leading your group in your space. It's an exercise that you can use to engage your protective factors and engage self-care on challenging days. And lastly, my friends, you've been doing a fantastic job. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your attention and your participation over these couple of hours. I recognize that you all are going to take on the role of being leaders in your community. And I recognize that you're going to do it with grace and with intentionality, right? That you're going to go out and have conversations that are going to break stigma. You're going to let people know how much value they have in this world. And I'm going to encourage you, and I have trust that you want to do so in a way that's really safe, right? So I will send Ariel and Lynette, I'll send you, I have this PDF one pager. These are some guidelines for how you all can lead, right? You can be in this position, leading conversation in a way that is safe for people that may be in the room that you don't know are vulnerable. When I say vulnerable, if talking about suicide is something that's very personal to them or they're struggling, we may not know that. I may not know if someone in this room is personally affected by suicide. These are things that we can do to protect those people and include them in conversation, but keep them safe, right? So, one thing we do in the conversation is when we talk about suicide, we always center the conversation to be around hope and healing, right? Rather than about dying or pain. While that might be a piece of it, we don't have to ignore the pain, but the conversation is centered around hope. Suicide is preventable. There's hope. Things can get better. Your pain is valid and it's not the whole story, right? We convey the complexity. So we try to avoid sending this idea that suicide is caused by one thing, that suicide is a normal way of dealing with stress, or that we try not to glorify suicide. And you can read more about it in the one pager, right? So just explaining that, like, there are a lot of layers to what people experience when they're thinking about suicide. Number three is we always, always, always include resources. So if we're having a conversation about suicide, right, we want to make sure that if anyone in that room is thinking about suicide or has someone in their life thinking about suicide, that they leave our conversation with the resources they need to support themselves or support that person in their life. Number four, we use compassionate language. We use language that respects the life and that encourages people, like we spoke about early, not to feel shame or blame. Number five, we avoid graphic details, right? So we know that talking in detail about people's attempts or about people's lack of safety can lead vulnerable people to feel activated, and it might put them in a place of not feeling safe. So we try not to talk about the details of suicide attempts. And lastly, we take care of ourselves, y'all, right? I choose to share in spaces that I'm a suicide attempt survivor myself. It's taken a lot of time for me to learn how much of myself to share in spaces, right? Because sometimes I bring so much of my story or myself into a space that I leave not feeling well. And that's not healthy for me. And honestly, it's not healthy for the room that I'm sharing in either, right? My story belongs to me, it's mine. I don't owe anyone my story. You don't owe anyone your story, right? It's yours to share, and you get to choose at any moment in time how much of it you share. And you can choose at any moment in time, you know what? I decided I don't want to share this part any longer. This part's for me today. Tomorrow, maybe I'll choose to share it out, right? So you take care of yourself. You need to take a breath, take a breath. You need to pause and redirect, you pause and redirect. And after you have conversations, you lead conversations, you make sure you take care of yourself. After today, I'm going to go sit with my dog and I'm going to have a bite to eat, right? So, friends, these are our resources. I will share them with the adults in our space. And these are some wellness and safety apps that I like to share as well, right? So not only thinking about where can we reach out to in the moment of crisis, but actually what can we use to take care of ourselves all of the time, right? Two of my favorites are Virtual Hope Box app. That's a great app to have on your phone all of the time. It gives you coping skills. It gives you a community board to just like connect with people authentically. your life, your voice has the same stuff, but for like a younger age group. And then if you're someone who struggles with moments of feeling unsafe, the Safety Plan app is a great thing to have on your phone so you know what you're going to do to move through those moments safely. Friends, family, I've got so much love for you all. I appreciate you. And I hope that after a conversation today, you feel passionate about hope and healing, and you feel maybe motivated and a little more confident in yourself to go out and do the work that you're intending to do.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Stacy. We really appreciate you coming and talking to our youth. Can we give a little virtual round of applause for Stacy? Yeah, let me see those hands. Yeah, beautiful. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I'm loving the
Thank you,
chat.
Savvy. If any questions come up at any point, friends, feel free to email me or let Lynette know. Lynette's got my contact info. It's also totally normal and natural sometimes, like within the next couple of hours or so, that feelings could come to the surface. So just know to like take it easy on yourself, take care of yourself the rest of the day, and sending you all love.
Thanks so much, Stacy. Of course, appreciate you as always. We will stay after for a little bit if y'all need to debrief, process any emotions with us. Our emails are open, of course. And then just a little housekeeping announcement. We are closing the weekly check-in for right now, but we will let y'all know when it's up and running so that way you can submit your check-in for this week. And then we'll send all the information via email and we'll upload it to the Google Drive or the Google
Hi, Miso.
the Google Classroom as well. And we'll send an email about that too. But thank you all so much for being here. Y'all are so brave, so awesome. Like I said, we'll stay after, but I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. And anything I'm missing, Ariel, Ashley, Tiffany?
Nope, just resonating what Stacy shared. Take good care of yourselves this afternoon and reach out if you need anything. And we'll see you all next Tuesday.
Bye, everyone.
Much, guys.
Thank
Have a good
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Bye. Hey, Pia.
Hi,
Sorry,
Pia.
a bit late. I was coming back from the DMV.
Girl, did you get your license or no?
I finally got it. I finally
Yay!
Congrats.
thanks, guys.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Hey, stop.
The meeting went well today. Very, very informative.
Yeah, it went really well. I'm very happy.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Lynette, I know you have to jump to an appointment. Ashley and Pia, I'll send an email. I wanted to do some specific follow-up questions to the presentation today because I feel like there's just so much good information and wanted them to reflect a little bit. So I can send some ideas over, not like that many, just like three or four. So I'll send a few over and then I did, like Lynette mentioned, I closed the weekly check-in just for now. And then Ashley, would you be able to help update it if I send over some questions and you all like them too?
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that.
Okay, awesome. And then I just wanted to let everyone know I'm going on vacation next Thursday. And I know we don't have group that day, but I'll be out the week of the 7th and I'll be back
Yay,
for the
Ariel.
15th. You're so happy I'm going on vacation.
No, not like that.
No, I know.
I'm happy because you deserve a great
No, I
vacation.
know that I felt it that way, that you're like happy I'm taking a break. So just
Very
teasing.
happy.
I'm actually going out of the country to Italy and Switzerland, which I have never done. So it's big for us.
I'm
Yeah.
so excited for you.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited for you.
Yeah, it's big for
You
us.
eat
So
everything and tell me
yeah,
everything you ate.
I know
Yeah, wait, take lots of pictures of your food.
I'm trying to research like
Seriously.
where to eat and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll
I mean, you can also like take me with you. Like I fit into
I was gonna
suitcases.
say
Like
too, like, can
I'm
I come?
right. Like
I'll
don't
go
worry
on your
about
carry-on.
TSA.
I can
What'd you
I
say,
can
Pia?
fit in your I can fit in your carry-on. It's okay. Like, I really want to go to Italy. It sounds
Me
really
too.
awesome.
Me too. Ugh.
well, I'll definitely share pictures. And sorry, but I have too many shoes and clothes to fit any of you.
Valid. That's so valid. Is Ada going with you or no? I don't remember
No,
if I asked this. Okay, even
she
better.
she is not. Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be so much fun though.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to let everyone know that why I won't be around for a little bit next week and the week after. But yeah, it's been going really smoothly. So great work, everyone, and thanks for your time and being here.
Yes, thank
Mm,
you for having me, y'all.
Yeah,
Thanks for
and
coming,
Thank
Tiffany.
you.
even as like facilitators, leaders, we should take care of ourselves too, because it's true, like in the next couple hours, you might feel it like, oh, I just sat in on a 2-hour presentation about suicide prevention. So, take care of yourselves today.
Definitely. I think I'm gonna make myself some pancakes. So,
Ooh,
Ooh, love
yes.
that.
yeah.
I love that.
Alrighty.
All
Yeah.
right.
Enjoy.
Take
Thanks, everyone.
care. Bye.
Bye.